Let's be honest with each other for a second. Apple is incredibly late to the party. If the foldable phone world was a dinner party, Samsung showed up 3 hours ago to help set the table, cook the food, and accidentally break a few plates in the process. While Apple is just now pulling into the driveway in a pristine luxury car, acting like the party doesn't start until they walk through the door. But here is the crazy part. They might be right. We have been talking about the iPhone Fold for what feels like a decade. Every year there is a new patent, a new render, and a new rumor. But fall 2026 is looking like the actual finish line. And while it is easy to dunk on Apple for waiting this long, we need to talk about why they waited and why this specific device might make all those Galaxy Folds we have seen over the years look like public beta tests. First, we have to give credit where it is due. Samsung didn't just dip a toe in the water. They did a cannonball back in 2013. They showed us the future before the technology was actually ready to support it. They went through the nightmare of the first Galaxy Fold launch. Remember when people were peeling off the screen protectors and killing the displays? Samsung took those hits. They iterated on the Flip, the Fold, and even those wild trifold concepts. They pushed the engineering limits so that the supply chain could actually figure out how to make a hinge that doesn't explode. So, why did Apple sit on the sidelines with their arms crossed? It is the classic Apple playbook. They don't want to be first. They want to be best. They watched every crease complaint, every app scaling issue, and every awkward aspect ratio debate. They waited for the technology to become invisible, because that is the Apple goal, right? When you use a device, you shouldn't be thinking about the hinge mechanism. You should just be thinking about the screen. Now, let's get into the spicy details of what this thing actually is. According to the latest leaks, the iPhone Fold is dropping in late 2026, probably right next to the iPhone 18 Pro. And the form factor is where Apple is making a massive pivot from what we are used to seeing. When you close this thing, you aren't getting a tall, skinny remote control looking device. You're getting a 5.3 to 5.5 inch screen. Does that sound familiar? It should. That is basically the size of the iPhone mini. Apple fans have been begging for the return of the mini for years, and Apple is finally giving it to us, just with a secret weapon hidden inside. This means it is going to be super pocketable and easy to use with one hand. But when you crack this thing open, that is when the magic happens. We are looking at a 7.6 to 7.8 inch inner display. But the specs aren't the important part here. It is the shape. Apple is reportedly going for a 4:3 aspect ratio. This is huge. Most foldables today are squares or tall rectangles, which makes watching video kind of awkward because you get those massive black bars at the top and bottom. But a 4:3 ratio? That is iPad territory. That is the iPad mini aspect ratio. Think about it. An iPad mini that folds in half and fits in your pocket. It fixes the biggest issue with current foldables, which is app compatibility. Android developers have struggled for years to make apps look good on those weirdly tall, folding screens. But developers already know how to build for a 4:3 screen because they have been building iPad apps for 15 years. It is a genius move that instantly gives the iPhone Fold a massive library of apps that actually look good. And it seems like Samsung knows they are in trouble. There are reports floating around that Samsung is scrambling to release a new wide fold edition with, you guessed it, a 4:3 aspect ratio. They are trying to beat Apple to the punch with around 1 million units before the iPhone Fold even hits the shelves. It is not copying if you do it first, right? But it clearly shows that the industry is realizing Apple's design choice is probably the right one. So what does this mean for us? The consumers? It means that in 2026, folding phones stop being tech enthusiast toys and start being normal. When Tim Cook walks out on that stage, he isn't going to compare the iPhone Fold to the Pixel Fold or the Galaxy Z Fold. He won't even mention them. He is just going to say this is the ultimate iPhone. And just like that, millions of people who swore they would never buy a foldable will suddenly need one. Analysts are already predicting Apple could sell 8 to 10 million of these in the first year alone. That would instantly grab about 20% of the entire foldable market. And they will do it by selling us on the ecosystem. Imagine this workflow. You are walking down the street answering texts on your iPhone mini outer screen. You get to a coffee shop, sit down, open it up, and boom, you are working on an iPad. No weird syncing issues. No switching devices, just one continuous experience. It doesn't cannibalize the iPad Pro, and it doesn't hurt the iPhone Pro Max. It sits right in this perfect middle ground for people who want a big screen but hate giant pockets. But this brings us to the big controversy, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Did Samsung waste a decade being a pioneer, only for Apple to swoop in and steal the glory? Or was Samsung essentially running a 10-year public beta test for the rest of the industry? Because let's be real, if the iPhone Fold comes out and the crease is invisible and the apps work perfectly and the battery life is amazing, a lot of people are going to ask, why didn't Samsung do this 5 years ago? And the answer is, because 5 years ago, the tech wasn't ready. Samsung took the arrows in the back so Apple could walk over the bridge. It is going to be an expensive year in 2026. We are expecting this thing to cost a premium, likely well over the price of Pro Max. But for the first time since the iPhone X, it feels like we are on the verge of a totally new iPhone experience. Not just a better camera or a faster chip, but a fundamental change in how we use the device. So, are you buying it? Are you ready to forgive the crease if it has an Apple logo on it? Or do you think foldables are still a gimmick that will break in 2 years? I want to see the debate in the comments. Samsung fans, defend your honor. Apple fans, tell me if the wait was worth it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because as we get closer to 2026, the leaks are only going to get crazier, and you don't want to miss them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.